The stars were quiet. Nothing moved in the deep black of space. A broken ship floated slowly, spinning slightly as if trying to find direction. Its lights flickered weakly. Inside, everything was silent. Too silent. Captain Threx sat in the command chair, barely breathing. His scales had lost their bright shine. He looked at the blank screen in front of him, hoping for a miracle. But he knew no one was coming. It had been 18 days since the pirates attacked. They came fast, without warning. They didn't speak, they only fired. The crew tried to escape, but the engines were hit first, then the weapons, then the oxygen systems. One by one, his friends died, some in the explosions, some after. Now only 5 were left. The food was almost gone. Water supplies were low. They had sent out a distress signal every hour. No reply. Not from allies, not from traders, not from anyone. Maybe no one cared. Maybe no one was listening. Yila, the youngest crew member, sat next to a broken console. Her hands shook as she tried to repair a communication wire. Her small blue fingers were burned. She had not eaten in 2 days. Her stomach made soft noises, but she ignored them. She had work to do. "Try it now," she said, her voice dry. "Threx, press the button again." The signal went out. A weak wave through the stars. A small voice screaming into a vast void. Still no answer. Across the room, Medical Officer Drell lay on a metal table. He had been injured in the attack. A metal shard was stuck in his chest. They had no proper tools to remove it. He slept now, breathing softly, but everyone knew he might not wake up. Engineer Borak stood near the engine room door, arms crossed. He was tall and strong, but now even he looked weak. His uniform was torn. His eyes looked distant. He had stopped fixing things. 3 days ago, there was nothing left to fix. "The power cells are dying," he said quietly. "Maybe 3 more days. After that we lose heat, then air." Threx didn't reply. He just closed his eyes for a moment. 3 days. That was all they had left. He looked around at the small group. Once they were explorers, scientists, dreamers. They had left their world to learn about stars. Now they would die among them. He thought about his family back home. Would they ever know what happened? Would anyone? Yila leaned her head against the cold wall. Her eyes were heavy. She hadn't slept in a long time. "Captain," she whispered, "do you think someone will come?" Threx opened his mouth, then closed it. He wanted to lie. He wanted to say yes. But he had no strength left for lies. "I don't know," he said. Time passed slowly. Minutes felt like hours. The stars outside didn't move. The silence became heavier. Then suddenly, a beep, a single small sound. Everyone in the room froze. Threx looked at the screen. A signal. Real signal. He rushed to the console, his hands shook. The message was short, just a few words. But they lit a fire in his chest. "We received your distress signal. Help is on the way." He read it again. And again. It didn't change. It was real. "Who sent this?" Borak asked, stepping closer. Threx scanned the code. His eyes widened. The signal came from a ship using an unknown signature, not from their species, not from any ally. This is from humans," he said slowly. Yila gasped. Even Drell, weak and barely awake, opened his eyes. "Humans?" she asked. No one had ever met a human before. Their kind had only recently entered galactic space. Stories said they were dangerous, wild. Some said they were kind, others said they were monsters. "They say humans don't follow rules," Borak said. "They say humans are warlike, unpredictable." "But they answered our signal," Yila said. "Maybe it's a trap," Borak said. Threx stared at the screen. His heart was pounding. He didn't know what to think, but something deep inside told him this was real. "They said help is on the way," Threx said. "We don't have a choice, we wait." Minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. The crew sat in silence, eyes on the radar. Then a dot appeared. A ship. It moved fast. Faster than anything they had seen before, straight toward them. "It's them," Threx said. The ship was large, dark, and strange in design. It didn't look like any ship in their records. It stopped just a few hundred meters away. A message flashed. "Preparing to dock. Stand by." The airlock lights turned red, then yellow, then green. A loud hiss filled the hallway as the door slowly opened. Everyone stood back. Borak held a metal rod just in case. Ela hid behind a crate. A figure stepped in. Tall, wearing a dark suit. A helmet covered the face. The figure moved slowly, carefully. Then, the helmet opened. It was a human. He looked around, his face calm, eyes sharp. He raised a hand, not in anger, but in peace. "Name's Commander Riker," he said. "We picked up your signal. Thought you could use a hand." Threx stepped forward. "I am Captain Threx. We didn't think anyone would come." Riker gave a small smile. "Yeah, we've been there." He walked over to Drell, saw the injury. "We have medical equipment. Let's get your man patched up." 2 more humans stepped in. They carried supplies, food, water, tools. Yela stared with wide eyes. The stories had said humans were cold and wild, but these ones, they were helping. Borak lowered his rod. "Why?" he asked. "Why help us?" Riker looked at him. "Because no one helped us once. We remember how that felt." He looked around at the broken ship, the tired faces, the pain. "You're not alone anymore," he said. For the first time in many days, Threx felt something warm in his chest. Hope. They had been left to die, but the humans had shown up, and everything was about to change. The air inside the broken alien ship felt a little warmer now. Not because the systems were fixed, but because hope had returned. The human visitors had brought food, water, and medical supplies. For the first time in weeks, the alien crew was able to breathe without fear. Still, something inside them was not at peace. The humans had come, yes, but why? Could they be trusted? Were the stories about them true or just myths? Captain Threx stood near the doorway, watching the human commander closely. The man, Commander Riker, moved calmly, giving orders to his team while checking the wounded alien Drell. Riker's voice was low, steady, full of something Threx couldn't quite understand. Was it care, confidence, or something else? Ela sat quietly behind a crate, holding a small piece of protein ration given by one of the human crew members. She hadn't tasted food like that before. It was dry but full of flavor. She looked around, watching the humans moving through their ship. None of them looked dangerous. In fact, they seemed normal. Just people doing their job. Borak, standing near the power controls, didn't lower his guard. He had always believed the old stories. Humans, the unknown species from a distant star, were told to be fighters, chaotic, and wild. But now, standing here, watching them offer help, his belief began to shake. Riker turned to Threx. "Your ship's engine is beyond repair, but we can tow you to a safe zone," he said. Threx gave a slow nod. "Why are you really here?" Riker looked at him for a moment, then answered honestly, "Because we were once in the same place. Years ago, one of our early ships got stranded in deep space. No one helped. No one answered our call. We survived. Barely. Since then, we made a rule. If someone calls, we answer." Silence followed. It wasn't just words, it was something deeper, a truth that didn't need to be shouted. "But," Riker added, "you need to know something. You're not alone out here. Someone followed your signal." Threx frowned. "Who?" Riker pointed. "To a screen. We picked up a faint shadow about an hour before we reached you. A ship. No ID, no signal. Just floating slowly, like it's watching." Borak moved closer. "Pirates?" "Could be," Riker replied. "Could be worse. We don't know yet. But it's moving now. Not fast, but steady. Fear crept back into the room. After everything, danger was still out there. "We need to leave," Riker said. "Your ship can't run. We'll connect our tow line and pull you." Threx gave the order. The human team moved quickly. They were organized, efficient, like they had done this many times before. As they prepared for tow, Yila watched from the observation window. She saw the human ship for the first time, dark gray, strong-looking, with strange markings on the sides. It didn't look beautiful, but it looked powerful. Safe. Back inside, Drell slowly opened his eyes. His wound had been cleaned and patched by the human medic. He looked around, confused, then saw a human face. Instead of panic, he smiled. "I thought we were gone," he whispered. "You were close." The medic replied gently, "But not today." The ships connected. Lights blinked. The engines of the human vessel powered up with a low hum. Slowly, the alien ship began to move for the first time in weeks. But far behind them, something else moved. The dark ship following them wasn't fast, but it didn't stop either. It didn't send a message. No threat, no signal, just silent movement through the stars, like a shadow refusing to disappear. On the human bridge, Riker watched the tracker. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Something's not right," he muttered. His second in command, a woman named Harper, leaned forward. "They're keeping distance, but they haven't turned away." Riker tapped the console. "They're waiting for something. Maybe they thought we wouldn't come. Maybe they hoped the aliens would be easy prey. And now they're watching us. Testing us." Threx stood nearby. "We are not warriors. If they attack again, we cannot fight." Riker nodded slowly. "That's our job now." Hours passed. The stars shifted as the ships traveled through space. Inside the alien ship, the crew rested for the first time in a long time. But none of them truly slept. There was a feeling in the air, something watching, waiting. In the quiet corner of the ship, Yila spoke softly to the human engineer fixing the backup power unit. "Are you afraid?" she asked. He looked at her and smiled. "All the time," he said. "But fear keeps us sharp." She nodded slowly. "Why? Do you still help people if the galaxy is full of danger?" The engineer thought for a moment. "Because helping people is how we stay human." That night, or what felt like night in deep space, the unknown ship came closer. No message. No warning. Just a quiet presence that made the hair on every neck stand up. Riker called Threx to the human ship's control room. "We need to be ready. They might test us." Threx stood still. "What do they want?" "Fear," Riker replied. "They want to scare you into surrender." "But we already lost everything." Riker looked him in the eye. "Not everything. You still have each other, and now you have us." For a moment, the alien captain didn't say anything. Then slowly, he nodded. Outside, the dark ship shifted again. Closer now. But the humans didn't run. They stood firm. In the silence of space, a quiet decision was made. If danger came, they would face it together. And in that moment, Threx understood something that no old story had told him. Humans didn't fight just to win. They fought to protect. They fought to answer calls no one else would. And that made them something the galaxy had rarely seen. Hope. The stars seemed to move slower that day, as if time itself was stretching in silence. Floating in the vast dark, the alien ship drifted behind the human vessel, towed gently like a lost child being led home. The quiet inside the ship was thick, not from fear, but from the unknown. Every crew member felt it. Something was coming. Something they couldn't see but could feel in their bones. Captain Threx stood in the human command room, watching the blinking lights on the radar screen. A tiny red dot remained in the distance, following, matching their speed, always there. "Commander." Riker didn't speak much. His face was calm but focused. He watched that dot with the intensity of someone who had been through many long nights like this one. Behind them, Yila watched with wide eyes. She didn't understand all the screens and codes, but she knew enough to recognize danger when it lingered that long. That ship, silent and cold, hadn't changed course in hours. It was waiting. Still no signal, Harper reported. Her voice broke the silence, but not the tension. They're not trying to talk. They won't, Riker said without looking. Away. They don't need to. Threx turned to him. Then why follow? Riker paused for a second. To learn, to watch, or maybe to test our limits. Borak, standing near the door, stepped forward. Then what are we going to do when they stop watching and start moving? We prepare, Riker said. The human crew moved with quiet urgency. Every action was precise. Screens flickered, data flowed, and orders were given, yet none of it felt rushed. The humans were calm. They had done this before. Inside the alien ship, life had slowly started to return. The power systems were now partially restored. Lights worked in most areas. Heating. Systems had stabilized. There was still no way to move under their own power, but survival no longer seemed like a dream. Drell, still recovering, sat up in the med bay and looked out the window. He saw the human ship pulling them along, a strange sense of comfort growing in his chest. He turned to the human medic who checked his vitals. You saved us, Drell said quietly. The medic gave a tired smile. We just gave you a chance, the rest is up to you. It was a simple answer, but one that stayed with Drell. A chance. That's all anyone really needed. But that chance was hanging by a thread, because the ship in the shadows had not gone away. Hours passed. Stars shifted. The red dot remained. Then something changed. A soft beep broke the silence in the command room. Riker leaned closer. They're moving, he said. The dot was no longer just following. It was closing the distance. Slowly but clearly. They're not hiding anymore, Harper said. Riker stood straight. They've made a choice, now we make ours. Threx's heart beat faster. He felt the same dread from the day the pirates attacked. But this time there was something else. A steady presence beside him. The humans. What will you do? He asked Riker. We'll try to talk first, Riker said. If that fails, we'll protect what's behind us. Riker stepped forward and opened a wide-range broadcast. His voice was steady and clear. To the vessel behind us, this is Commander Riker of the Terran Alliance. Identify yourself and state your intention. Silence followed. Seconds passed. Then a response came through. But it wasn't words. It was noise. A low, echoing sound filled the room. It wasn't static, and it wasn't communication. It was like hearing wind from a dead world, cold, empty, without meaning. That's not a reply, Harper whispered. Riker closed the channel. It's a warning. The ship kept getting closer. Threx turned toward the window and saw it for the first time. A long, narrow craft. No lights, no markings. It moved like it belonged to the dark. They're not here to help, Threx said. No, Riker replied. But we are. Riker turned to his crew. Get ready to shift course. Increase engine output by 20%. You're not going to face them? Thrax asked. Not yet, Riker said. We're not here to fight. We're here to protect you. That means getting you to safety first. But what if they don't stop? Riker looked him in the eye. Then we won't either. The engines of the human ship roared slightly louder. The tow cables held strong. The alien ship shook gently from the new speed, but no one complained. In the engine room, Borak worked with a human technician. They adjusted power flow, making sure the systems didn't overload. You trust them now? The human asked. Borak looked up. I don't know what I believe, but I've never seen anyone risk so much for strangers. The human smiled. Welcome to the crew. In the corridor, Yila watched the stars blur past the windows. She clutched a small tablet given by the human communications officer. It had information, Maps, languages, stories. She found herself reading about Earth, about humanity's long history, their pain, their loss, and their courage. "They're not like us," she whispered. "But maybe," she added, "that's a good thing." Back on the bridge, the unknown ship kept following. The distance had closed, but it stopped again, holding just outside of range, still watching. "They're waiting for something," Riker said. "What do we do?" Threx asked. "We show them. We're not afraid." The human ship flashed a signal, simple lights blinking in a pattern. A message not of war, but of warning. "We see you. We will not run." No reply came, but the dark ship stayed where it was. And slowly, minute by minute, the distance began to grow again. The human ship kept moving. The shadow stayed behind. Threx stood in silence. "You think they're gone?" he asked. Riker shook his head. "No, but they've seen what we do when someone calls for help." "And what is that?" Threx asked. "We show up." The journey continued. Stars passed by. And for the first time in a long time, there was no silence in the hearts of the alien crew. There was fear, yes. But more than that, there was trust, because someone had come for them, and that changed everything. The stars outside the window shimmered like tiny promises, still distant, still unreachable, but not as cold as before. The hum of the human ship towing the damaged alien vessel had become a kind of comfort, steady, alive, and filled with silent strength. Inside the alien ship, the crew moved more freely, now their steps no longer heavy with fear, but carried by quiet hope. Captain Threx stood beside a restored window panel, watching the stars with tired eyes. Every moment he expected something to change. An alarm. Another shadow creeping from the void. But all he saw was space stretching wide and deep. Then, without warning, a soft sound filled the room. Not an alarm, not danger, but a chime. A message had arrived from the human vessel. "Captain Threx, this is Commander Riker," the message began, clear and calm. "We've picked up an automated beacon from a derelict station 2 light hours ahead. It's weak and old, but still broadcasting. Might be shelter, might be trouble. I need your crew's decision. Do we approach or avoid?" Threx replayed the message 3 times before calling a meeting. The alien crew gathered in a central bay that had once been a cargo room, now turned into a meeting space. Faces were weary, but alert. Yila, Borak, and Drell sat quietly among the others. They listened as Threx played the message one last time. "We vote," Threx said. "All of us." One by one they raised their hands. "Approach." Because shelter, even uncertain, was still better than silence. And because they were no longer alone. Minutes later, Threx sent the reply. The human ship adjusted course and both vessels began drifting toward the signal. As they moved closer, the station slowly came into view. It was large but broken, a skeletal structure floating among shattered panels. No power in the outer rings, but a faint signal pulsed from the center. It looked like something forgotten by time itself, abandoned long ago, still whispering into the dark. In the human control room, Riker narrowed his eyes. "Looks like an old trade hub, maybe pre-war. Could be scavenger's ground or a relay, lost in a storm." Harper turned to him. "Do we dock?" "We scan first," Riker said, "then we decide." Scans revealed minimal life support. A sealed central chamber still held atmosphere. No signs of activity. No recent movement. Riker sent another message to Threx. "We're going in." They launched a small exploration craft. Riker led the team, himself with 2 of his crew and Borak, who insisted on going. "It's our space," Borak had said. "I want to see what's left of it." One night, as the stars blazed cold and distant, a sudden alarm echoed through both ships. The sensors had picked up a large, unknown vessel moving towards them. It was unlike anything either crew had seen. Massive, sleek, and silent. Threx and Riker prepared the crews for contact. The tension was thick but controlled. This could be a threat or a chance for new allies. The unknown vessel stopped just outside sensor range. Then a signal was received, a message in a language unfamiliar but clearly advanced. The human crew worked quickly to decode it. Hours later, Riker turned to Threx. "They want to talk. They are curious about us, about our journey." Threx allowed, himself a small smile. "Then we are not alone." "Not really." The crews gathered for a joint meeting with the unknown ship's representatives. They were unlike anything seen before, tall, slender beings with glowing patterns across their skin. Their presence was peaceful, but their technology was awe-inspiring. The aliens communicated through a mixture of images and sounds, showing their own history of survival and loss. They had been watching the beacon, learning about the humans and their allies. One of them approached Threx and Riker, offering a small device, an ancient artifact from their civilization. It was a gift, a symbol of trust, and a hope for shared futures. Threx took it carefully. "We have traveled far and lost much," he said softly. "But this moment reminds us that even in the deepest darkness, light can be found." The visitors agreed to join the alliance, sharing knowledge and resources to help ensure no other lives were lost to the silence of space. Back on the ships, the crews celebrated quietly, knowing this was only the beginning. The universe was vast and unpredictable, but together they would face whatever came next. Captain Threx looked at the stars one last time before rest. "We have become more than survivors. We are the bearers of hope." Commander Riker nodded beside him. "And that is the greatest strength of all." The journey continued, not just to safety, but toward a future where no one would be abandoned in the dark again.